Pat's Diver's Ordeal by Letitia Maclintock. Pat's Diver, the tinker, was a man well accustomed to the wandering life and to strange shelters. He had shared a beggar's blanket in the smoky cabins. He had crouched beside the still in many a nook and corner. Still, poutine was made on the wild Inishwan mountains. He had even slept upon the barren heather in the ditch, with no roof over him but the vault of the heavens. And yet all his nights of adventure came to a commonplace when compared to one especial night. During the day preceding that night, he had mended all the kettles and saucepans in Mulville and Greencastle, and was on his way to Coldaf when night overtook him on the lonely mountain road. He knocked at one door after another, asking for a night's lodging, while he jingled his halfpence in the waistcoat pocket, but everywhere refused. Where he was the boasted hospitality of Innisfrowne, which he had never before known to fail. It was no use to be able to pay when people seemed so curlish. Thus thinking, he made his way towards a light a little further on, and knocked at another cabin door. An old man and woman were seated one each side of the fire. "Will you be pleased to give a night's lodging, sir?" asked Pat respectfully. "Can you tell a story?" returned the old man. "No, then, sir, I cannot say I'm a good storyteller," replied the puzzled tinker. "Then you maun just gang further, for none but them that can tell a good story can get in here." This reply was made in so decided a tone that Pat did not attempt to repeat his appeal, but turned away reluctantly to resume his weary journey. "A story indeed," muttered he. "Old wise fables to please the weans." As he took up his bundle of tinkering implements, he observed the barn standing rather behind the dwelling house, and aided by the rising moon, he made his way towards it. It was a clean, roomy barn, with a piled-up heap of straw in one corner. There was a shelter not to be despised. So Pat crept under the straw and soon fell asleep. He could not have slept very long when he was awakened to the tramping of feet and the peeping cautiously through the crevice of the straw covering. He saw 4 immensely tall men enter the barn, dragging a body which they threw roughly upon the floor. They next lighted the fire in the middle of the barn, and fastened the corpse by the feet with a great rope to a beam in the roof. One of them began to turn it slowly before the fire. "Come on," said he, addressing a gigantic fellow, the tallest of the 4. "I'm tired. You be the talk your turn." "Faix an' troth, you'll no turn him," replied the big man. "There's Pat Driver under the straw. Why wouldn't task your turn?" With hideous clamour the 4 men called the wretched Pat, who, seeing there was no escape, thought it was wisest to come forth from hidden. "Now, Pat," they said, "you'll turn the corpse, but if you let him burn, you'll be tied up there and roasted in his place." Pat's hair stood on end, and a cold perspiration poured out of his forehead. There was nothing for it but to perform this dreadful task. Seeing him fairly embarked in all, the tall men went away. Soon, however, the flame rose so high as to singe the rope, and the corpse fell with great thud upon the fire, scattering the ashes and embers, and extracting a howl of anguish from the miserable cook, who rushed to the door and ran for his life. He ran until he was ready to drop of fatigue when seeing a drain overgrown with tall, rank grass. He thought he would creep in there and lie hidden until morning. But he had not been many minutes in the drain before he heard the heavy trampling again. Then 4 men came up from the burden which they laid down on the edge of the drain. "I'm tired," said one to the giant. "It's your turn to carry him for a piece now." "Fact and troth, I'll no carry him," replied he. But there's Pat Driver in the drain. Why wouldn't he come and take his turn?" "Come out, Pat, come out," roared all the men, and Pat, almost dead with fright, crept out. He staggered on under the weight of the corpse until he reached Killtown Abbey, a ruin festooned with ivy, where the brown owl hooted all night long, and the forgotten dead slept around the walls, under dense, matted tangles of brambles and bindweed. No one ever buried there now, but Pat's tall companions turned into the wild graveyard and began to dig a grave. Pat, seeing them thus engaged, thought he might once more try to escape, and climbed up on a hawthorn tree in the fence, hoping to be hidden by the browse. "I'm tired," said the man who was digging the grave. "Here, take the spade," addressing the big man. "It's your turn." "Faith and troth, it's not my turn," replied he. "There's Pat Driver in the tree. Why wouldn't he come down and take his turn?" Pat came down to take the spade, and just then all the cocks in the little farmyards and cabins around the abbeys began to crow. The men looked at one another. "We must go," they said. "And woe it is for you, Pat Driver," as the cocks crowed. "For if they had not, you'd just be bundled into the grave with the corpse." 2 months passed, and Pat had wandered far and wide over the county dongle. Then he glanced at the Rive Repon during a fair. Among the crowd that filled the diamond, he came suddenly upon the big man. "How are you, Pat Driver?" he said, bending down to look at the tinker's face. "You've the advantage of me, sir. I have not the pleasure of knowing you." "Do you not know me, Pat? Whisper. When you go back to Ishenden, you'll have a story to tell."